What's up, everybody? We're back here for episode number 10 of the Level Up Your Life podcast. I'm here with a great friend of mine and a special guest, Wil Salgado. Wil, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Billy?
I'm doing amazing, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. This is long overdue. You are a big motivator for me to finally get my podcast rocking and rolling because you've been kicking ass and just pumping out podcasts. So we're excited to get you here. Excited to finally be around people back to like some normality with everything with Corona. So, and I really want to talk about what you've been doing during Corona because I think you've just attacked the market. I mean, you were pumping out content, but just sharing valuable information to people that were dealing with different situations because, being a lawyer and dealing with law, everything changed. And so we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about your background, kind of what led you into becoming an attorney and how it all started. So where did this all begin for you?
Well, the law aspect of it really came down or derived from my background as a park ranger. I was a first responder as a park ranger in my early 20s. I did that for 6 years for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That was a very interesting job. I missed that job very much after I left it. But, the researching the different aspects of, the federal code of regulations, looking at, or giving out tickets and looking up the law and the case law behind it really made me think like, wow, I really like this. I like the law aspect of it as well as the patrolling and the public speaking that came along with being a park ranger, because park rangering, I'm going to say park rangering, even though I don't know if that's a real word, had its slow period because a lot of people don't go out to the parks during the wintertime, or they do, mostly hiking, but it's not as active. People aren't as active out in the parks as they are during the summertime. So during the winter, I would have to give out I would give out speeches on water safety as the spring came about, and also on the history of Knights Ferry back then. And I would have busloads of school children come in. I'd give tours to like 200 kids a day. It was nuts sometimes. And so that public speaking, along with the law aspect of being a park ranger or law enforcement aspect of it, led me to have an appreciation for law that would eventually catapult me into becoming a lawyer.
And so at what age did you decide to make that leap? Or were you going to school while being a park ranger as well?
I was doing both. Yeah, I was doing that. And then it came to a point where I needed to make the decision of whether I was going to go into law school or not. And so I knew that my ultimate goal was to own my own practice. I didn't want to work under a firm or any other attorney because I sort of wanted to become rogue, so to speak, and do my own thing, which I'm doing now. You don't hear many attorneys that have their own YouTube channel or podcast and other activities that I'm involved in that are working under firms, because you work a lot of hours when you're doing doing work as an associate. That's what I saw anyways. But in 2006 or 7, I decided to. It was about 2007, 2008. I decided to leave the ranger world and work for attorneys as a paralegal. Started freelancing or working for them full time, and that's really the time where I absorbed all the legal knowledge, all the expertise, anything I could gain from these attorneys, and became a paralegal and learned the law, the paperwork, the procedures that go along, the paperwork at the state level, and then that's how I gained the background of how a law office runs. And so when I passed the bar exam on my first attempt, which most people don't, I was just ready to rock and roll from the very beginning. So I've been doing it ever since 2014.
That's so awesome that you mentioned that, because I think often entrepreneurs want to jump into doing their own thing, but you went in and worked for somebody else to figure out how that thing works. And that's probably what's led to a lot of your success now, is you didn't try to create the plan. You already had the blueprint and you just implemented your own plan around it. You kind of made your tweaks to it. And I think there's so much value in working for somebody else that's already done it and kind of cutting your learning curve down, because you learn through their mistakes, or you kind of cut off those mistakes that they made and are able to implement that. Do you think that played a lot of a big role into your success now?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's not only that, not only learning the skill set and the knowledge and knowing that I'm capable in being successful at it, but also whether it's the right fit, because as I believe firmly, some people are not fit to be in a certain type of occupation. You know, I think there's people who shouldn't be attorneys. I really do. I think there's people that shouldn't be police officers or people that shouldn't be in politics. Because they're just not good at it. They don't have the skill for it. They're not competent for it. But I enjoyed it. I felt that it was the right occupation for me. And so when I decided to jump from the park ranger world to the legal world, the legal field, you know, that was a big risk because it's kind of like, am I really going to enjoy this? Am I going to really be able to complete all the studies, all the law school requirements, and pass the bar exam, which has I think I took the February 2013 bar exam. I think the February exam had like a 38% pass rate for first timers. Wow. So so if you think about it, 3 or 4 people out of 10 are going to pass. The rest have to retake it, you know, and your chances of passing it decrease for repeat test takers. So it's an interesting exam.
And so why is that it decreases?
I think if you don't get it the first time,
fucks with your mind.
You are not getting it the second time because it's a very rigorous exam. Actually, they try to make it simpler by reducing it from 3 days because it was a 3-day test, and now it's 2 days, and it's like a full day thing. I think it was like you went in at 8, and you didn't get out till 4. You had a lunch break, but it was pretty intense, and it's timed, obviously.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, even when you were talking about kind of inventorying whether or not you're going to enjoy this, do you think part of that was like making sure that you believed you could accomplish everything involved and that you were willing to accomplish everything? Because I think often sometimes people, they don't start because they're like, I don't believe I can do it. But you kind of like checked, you're like, I can do this. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to put the work in. All right, I'm gonna go do it. Like you had to like check it off so that you believed that you could, and then you went and did. Do you think that was kind of your process?
I think I knew that I had a passion for law. I already knew that that I really had an interest in it, a desire, like a burning desire. I'm not talking about, you know what? I didn't wake up one morning and say, fuck, I'm going to try to be a lawyer. You know, I really enjoyed reading the cases and the law itself and sort of thinking about or envisioning myself as an attorney, you know, not to make money, but to actually practice the law, help people out who are in need, who may have an unfair advantage in the court system. And so I knew that I had a passion for it. I wanted to make sure that this is really what I wanted. So that's why I made the dive. I wouldn't have made the dive from being a park ranger because that was a great job. I mean, you're out on a patrol boat or on kayaks, you know, enforcing, you know, camping laws and fishing license violations, stuff like that. And you're out in nature. I loved it. You know, it's something that I try to get back into now. But I wanted to make sure that it was my niche. It was what I wanted to do for sure. So, because it's one thing to see it on TV, to see it in your mind as opposed to the real world. In the real world, am I going to like preparing all these documents? Am I going to enjoy meeting with clients who are in difficult situations at the time? Because if you think about it, the people that come see me aren't in the best shape of their life. It's not like they're coming to see me because it's not happy times. I'm not a wedding planner. You know, I'm the opposite actually. Yeah. I'm a wedding planner destructor. So it's just I wanted to make sure that I could withstand the stress level that the job comes along.
And I think that there's a lot of power in the visualization. Not only did you visualize yourself being this person, but you visualized everything that goes into it. And I think so often we're just like, yeah, I want to do that thing. But what is that? Like, what goes into that? And then, you know, like dieting. Oh, I want to be fit. Are you willing to cut out, you know, having bad meals? Are you willing to do this? And I don't think people kind of check that off and visualize, put themselves into the shoes of that position that they want to be and go, am I willing to do everything that takes? Or even visualizing what it's going to take to become that or who you have to embody. And by visualizing it, I think that just cemented you realizing that you needed to do this. And there's so much power in visualization that I think people undervalue that. And they're just like, well, I like this thing and I want to do it because of the money or
right.
This. Like you knew you had a passion and then you visualized it and created that as like a reality for yourself. And there's so much power in that. I love like unpacking somebody's story and finding these little moments where like, oh, there's power in that visualization.
Right.
And I mean, you put yourself in that position before you were there, and then all you had to do just become that person.
Right.
So there's a lot of power in breaking that down. I appreciate you sharing that. So you jumped from being a park ranger, and that's the point that you went into law school. How long between the period of jumping to from being a park ranger to actually launching your own law firm was it?
Let's see here. So that was a total of, I want to say almost, 2006, about 8 years.
8 years? Okay.
8 years, yeah.
So you were a paralegal for a little while you're going to law school, then made the jump. When did you launch your law firm?
In 2014.
24. Okay. So wow. So you've been at it for 6 years, and when you launched, was it just you?
Yeah.
And now you've got a team of people.
I got a team of people. Yeah.
When you were building that in the beginning, what was that like? What was it like just getting started and like being this person that you're a pretty new attorney? Yes, you have the background, but like now you're on your own. Now it's sink or swim.
Well, it was nerve-wracking. I'm not going to say it wasn't. I had the experience and the knowledge to have the ability to take on a case and run it from the ground up. So if someone came in to me to do a divorce, for example, or a criminal case, I already knew the paperwork. So if someone came to, back then, when my first client came to my office and said, I need this done, I already knew how to do it. Yeah. I knew how to do all the paperwork, so I could do it all myself. The only thing that I lacked experience was probably the confidence to go before a judge and argue. But that comes with experience and some mentoring. That I have attorneys that mentor me here and there on certain subjects. When I need help, I'll pick their brain and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they'll say, we got to tweak this or tweak that, or you should argue this instead of argue that, or go this avenue as opposed to this avenue. So that is the experience you gain out in the field, out in the battlefield, so to speak. But at the very beginning, it was very busy for me because I was doing everything. I was doing the paperwork. I was answering phone calls. I was meeting with the clients. I was doing the contracts with them. I was going to court. I was doing the orders that you prepare after court. So it was extremely a busy time for me. But I realized I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm going to drown in work if I don't get help. And so I've learned that the best leaders are great delegators. And so, I hired a secretary and I started delegating, her certain tasks. And then that freed up my time to start focusing on other stuff like marketing. Yeah. All right. And so once that happened, I noticed that I started making a little bit more money. It's sort of like you see a small dip because you're sharing your income, but then you're also freeing up some time to do other things, which increases your marketability. People start hearing about you, and then you get more clients in return. And then at that point, I hired someone else, and slowly, you've got a team of 4 or 5, depending on what time of the year it is. And I'm rocking and rolling, and I'm the only attorney. But see, I'm so good at delegating that I really basically just show up to court, kick some ass, and then go back to the office and meet with the clients and consult with them. And down from the contract period to when they decide to hire, all the way to when we go to court, my staff helps me with that. They help the preparation of the contract payments, preparation of the legal documents in order to get us to court. And so I just review it, sign it, and I'm into court. So
man, that's awesome. I mean, there's power in having a team, and that's I think so often, especially in small business, we are afraid to delegate because I can do it better than them. But being able to kind of slow down, like you said, you share your profits, it kind of dips a little bit, but then that's where you get the uptick. I just think a lot of people they don't have the patience to get to that uptick.
Right.
But you were able to see that, and as you built a team, you've continued to scale it up. And so with your law firm, do you guys specialize in a particular area of law?
Yeah, we do. So I was doing personal injury, which is like vehicle accidents, along with everything else, which includes landlord-tenant stuff. Because in my paralegal experience, I kind of learned a lot of different subjects working for the different attorneys. I worked for, I think, 4 or 5 different attorneys throughout those 8 years that I was a paralegal. Was it 8 or I can't remember. Anyhow, but they all did different areas of law. Like I had an attorney who did personal injury accidents, which are vehicle accidents, slip and falls. I had an attorney who I worked for that did landlord-tenant law. I had an attorney who did just criminal law. Then I had one who did divorces. And so that's one of the awesome things that I picked up from being a paralegal is, which ones do I enjoy the most? And so I've focused on 3 areas of law now that I enjoy, which is bankruptcy, family law, which includes divorces, your alimony, your child support, and criminal defense work. So those are the 3 areas that I focus: bankruptcy, family law, slash divorces, and criminal defense. And that's what I primarily do at this point. Yeah.
I love how you keep mentioning I had to look at what I would enjoy. Like, that's really a very important part of everything you do. It seems like you do a lot of, I mean, you love the life. I mean, it looks like everything you do, you love. Whether it be vacationing, whether it be cars, whether it be working out, like whatever you do, you can see that you're passionate about it. And it's crazy to unpack all this and to hear you continuously use that word, because I think often we just think of, what can make me the most money? What can make me the most money as an entrepreneur? What pays my bills the best? But you're really focused on chasing the things that you're passionate about, and then your work ethic just goes right behind it, and you accelerate to the top. Yeah. So there's power in finding your passion and understanding what you're going to be the most passionate about, because that's what allows you to be great. Like, Michael Jordan wasn't great because basketball was the thing that he was like, well, I think that's the greatest thing I could become, or the easiest thing I could become a professional at. No, he wanted to be the greatest and was loved the game of basketball to a whole nother level, loved it more than anybody else. And that's what made him great. It wasn't that, I think basketball, it looks easy. It was like the passion was there, and then he became great. And it's the same thing with you. You figured out what your passion was, and then you became great at it because you were passionate about it. And your work ethic, it seems like you have a strong work ethic already. Then you just need to figure out what the passion is, and then that work ethic just attacks it.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, man. I love hearing this. So now let's step into current times. So you built this law firm, you built this great team, obviously, and now you're at this position where kind of what you were talking about in the beginning. You're one of the only attorneys, the only attorney in this area that's focused on personal branding, developing this YouTube channel, having podcasts. You have 2 different podcasts, correct?
I just have one. I was going to have 2. Okay. Dr. Divorce podcast was actually going to be a podcast separate from Wil's Law podcast, but then I decided to make it into a video or YouTube channel. Okay. I might have a podcast go off of it, but actually I've been talking to someone. We're going to be doing a show. I think I want to be going live, maybe making live calls. So maybe every Friday night. I got to figure it out. Yeah. Every Friday night I'm going to take calls.
It first. You're hearing it here first.
Right here. Yeah. So this is
this is a little special insight. So hopefully by the time this goes live in a couple weeks, you maybe have something a little bit more in the works. But man, I love what you do with this, because so often people don't want to put out information about what they do because somebody's going to steal it, or now I don't become valuable. But instead, you're putting information out there, giving free value to the community, helping them with, obviously, Dr. Divorce. We get the gist of that. You're helping people with their divorces, helping maybe even save marriages, helping just give insight in how you can improve the process, and sharing so much information. Or in Wil's Law, you've interviewed, many different people, from other attorneys to city officials, different things like that. And you're sharing information about how people can handle a world that I think most of us have no idea about, which is law. And just giving information. I saw you posting a lot during Corona about just different things that are going on, and whether it be spousal abuse or giving resources to information. And there's so much power in that. And I don't know why other lawyers don't do it, but I've heard your name drop. So, granted, we're good friends, and that may be why people talk about you to me, but I've heard your name, and I've seen your videos pop up, and I see you on other people's pages more. So much has happened because of this, by giving value. How is that? How did you come up with this idea? What led into you wanting to create this whole digital brand that in your space I don't think is traditional? I don't see.
No, it's not. It's not. It's actually the opposite. Most attorneys won't have a consult with you unless you pay them. Well, not most of them, but a lot of them do. I do paid consults, but at the same time, my consults give you valuable information. I just don't have you come in, you tell me your problem, and I'm going to say I can fix it or not. Yeah. I'll come up with a strategy or game plan, share it with you. If you like it, then you hire. If you don't, you can talk to another attorney. I don't have any problem. There's plenty of business to go around. So I'm not going to sit here and penny pinch and be like, no, you're my client. No. You want to go with another client or another attorney, please, by all means. It means that you and I are going to be a great fit, because it's long term. A lot of my divorces are not wrapped up in 6 months. They take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. These are like long term relationships we have with these clients, and so it's just one of those things where I saw people like you. I saw other people who are creating a brand and really marketing using social media, and that's the future. If you really look at it, the yellow pages, that's something of the past. No one even looks at that anymore. And I did radio advertising or radio broadcasting for a while. I had a show on a Spanish on a Spanish network
No way.
while back. Yeah, about 3-4 years ago.
And was
every
it
Friday?
And was it also about law?
Yeah, it was about law.
Wow.
It was a half-hour show, but I decided, you know what, I could do my own thing. I don't need to have a radio. I mean, it's nice the exposure and stuff, but how about if I have enough followers? How about if I've branded myself successfully enough to where I don't have to pay a radio network to broadcast my stuff? You know, if people want to. I have almost $5,000 follow. I'm thinking money. Even right
Money's
now,
on the mind.
Money's on the mind. 5,000 followers on Facebook. If I can get the algorithms right and show, hey, this is my show. If you're interested in this subject, come look at it. You know, and it's free advice. It hits the nail on the head. It brings back these, because I'm giving out free information. It comes back because people love that. They want to know more, you know, because they know they can't do it by themselves for the most part. It's too complicated. It's too complicated. Just for me being an attorney, I'll give you an example. The the videos I do, that takes a lot of time because I'm actually showing them which forms usually you fill out, you know, the FL 150s or whatever. And I have to double check and go online and make sure that I'm speaking the right thing and then add that on there. So it's confusing for me to even remember it and then remember what all it needs to be filled out. It's much more confusing for a person who's never done it. And so it's just really the internet is out there, the platforms are out there, and for the most part, it's all free. It's just you got to be willing to be creative, confident, and have sufficient time and the discipline to sit down and be like, this is the game plan. This is what I'm going to record about today. This is how I'm going to do it, and this is how I'm going to edit it, you know. And I've been doing most of that, and we just talked about this off the air that, you know, it's time for me to maybe start delegating that. But it's just, you know, sometimes I kind of want to do my own thing, and I don't like the way other people do it. But
let's, just like in the beginning of your law firm, it's that dip where you have to kind of like, I got to deal with stuff. As they start to figure out what you want, you figure out how to verbalize that. This is a whole nother category for you. It's not like I'm talking law to this other person. You're talking about content creating. That is this whole new genre that you're getting into. And so to find somebody, I mean, I know I'm lucky to have Diego because he knows what my vision is. He knows how I like things to look. But that took us that little dip, and then now we've accelerated because we're on the same page. Right. So there's power in, you know, finding the right person.
Right. That's what it comes down to. And finding the right responsible person.
It's like flipping cards. You know, eventually you'll hit that ace. You know, and I know it's only time. I mean, you're already knowing that you're doing this all yourself. I mean, you're already putting out great content. The word's already getting out there. I mean, you're hitting a lot of the reasons. Now it's going to look nicer. It's going to be, you're probably going to put out even more content. And there's so much power into what you just said, which is the internet is free. Yeah, there are paid advertisements. And when I talk to my food consulting clients, it's like, well, but do I have to pay for ads? Well, we can get there. We'll get there in a second. But the first part is all this free organic content that you can just put out and get back. And on top of it, so for you here, you know, being the only, pretty much, and I might be speaking out of tune, so I apologize to any attorneys that are watching this, but I think you're the only attorney here in the Central Valley, especially Modesto, that's doing anything along the lines. Maybe they have an Instagram, but they're not putting out Instagram content. They're not putting out YouTube. They're not podcasting.
No.
I mean, you're hitting it in so many different places. You're fishing with a lot of poles, not just fishing with one pole.
Right.
And so, how much has that helped you, even in your branding as an attorney? And I mean, being an attorney in our community doesn't just mean, you're going fighting cases. You're collaborating with other attorneys. You're providing value to the community. You're super active in obviously your car club, but giving back to the community, supporting other local businesses. How much has this podcast given you a platform to be able to do even more outside of just the law firm?
Oh, I mean, the Wil's Law podcast was created just for that. So Wil's Law podcast, originally, I wanted to talk about just law. But then at the same time, I thought, well, how many people are going to be interested in just law? You know, it gets boring. Sometimes I even get bored of talking about law. You know, so I started having some guests who wanted to come in, like Valentin Orta from the Barber Club. I think it's the Barber Club. It is. Yeah. And a few other individuals who have businesses here in town. And, you know, we talked about the journey, and I talked about what they're doing now. And in doing so, I realized, Mike, I really like discussing and promoting other people because I know what the struggle is like. I've struggled myself. I mean, I remember when I was going to law school and I was living off $10 a day. It was pretty much top ramen and refillable iced coffees at Starbucks. And so, there were people at Starbucks that still remember me to this day that I would be there for like 5-6 hours and be like, it's time for you to go home, dude. Like, you probably should
kick
take
you out.
off. And so I love what people who struggled and are making it, and I like to advertise what they're doing now. And so I figured if I can get my platform, my podcast to promote other businesses, I'll give them the WAV file or whatever. They can promote it on their social media platform, and then it gives us both exposure. Yeah. And then it's like networking, sort of, so to speak. Instead of going to a chamber meeting where we're sitting drinking cocktails and eating cheese, who knows where it came from? We're actually reaching thousands potentially from just a 30-minute session,
and providing value.
And providing value, we're not just like, hey, so how was work? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think there, man, I not really thought of it in that sense before, but like this is the modern day networking, right?
Here. Yeah.
And being in a tight knit community, everybody loves that chamber of commerce meetings and those, but that's like the way of the old guard, And I think even attorneys not having a social presence is the old guard, and that's a dying breed. And you're like the rising of the phoenix out of their ashes. You're this new person that's bringing this awareness. You're bringing awareness to other small businesses. You're networking. You're building a brand for yourself. You're doing so much for our community, and it's not even necessarily intentional for them. But just by doing what you're doing, you're proving to others that this is what they should be doing.
Right.
And I bet you over this next 6, 12, 18 months, we're going to see more attorneys popping up doing podcasts, more attorneys popping up doing social media. And I bet you we're going to be able to look back and tie them back to your podcast, your platform. And so there's power in the platform that you're creating, not just for your business, but being able to create a platform for others.
Right.
So there's a lot of power in that, man. I appreciate you doing that for our other entrepreneurs in this community and the community in general.
Yeah. So that's the purpose behind the Wil's Law Podcast. It's really to help out others. It takes time. I'm paying people to do the cleanup, for the audio, and I take time out of my schedule to accommodate other people to come in and talk about what they're doing and stuff. And it does help me out because, then they go and put it on there. For example, the Buzzsprout, the feed, the small, what do you call it?
The little micro clip there?
Yes, the micro clip. I just share that with them and they're just, thrilled about it, so.
Well, I mean, we've had many talks about content, and we're always talking about how can we make more? How can we make more? And so for somebody that doesn't have any content, to be able to work with you, not only are you providing them the value of your network, helping share great information out there, but then you're giving them content. So there's so much power in what you're doing, man. Like, you're making big impacts on a lot of people by just hosting that podcast. You were doing something for almost yourself that's now reciprocating so much value to other people.
Right.
So, I mean, I bet you when we look back, both of our podcasts, we're going to be able to tie a lot of people into launching their own podcasts, building social medias. There's going to be a lot of power coming from the podcast.
Right.
So with that, what was it that led you to wanting to launch a podcast? And like in particular, that platform of podcasting, what was it that drew you to it?
I think having the show, my own show, and spending a lot of money on the show at the time, because obviously I have to pay the network a certain amount of money, and putting me in a small amount of debt, which I've cleared, thankfully. I wanted to have that feeling again. I wanted to provide valuable information out to the public in the form of sort of a radio network type of system. And so that's what led me to think, well, hey, a podcast is kind of the same thing. You just have to get the host, get the recording equipment, the software, and then you can have your own show and then be on, Spotify or Apple Music. Yeah. And so that's really what I missed having my own radio show, and I missed being behind the mic like I am right now. And so I said, well, shit, I'll have my own mic. And so that's what I did.
And how much more freedom do you have now that it's your show versus being on a radio? like being under a radio station?
Well, even then I had a lot of freedom, but like I said, I was tied specifically to law. And so that was basically it. I was discussing law. We would take in caller questions, I remember, and I enjoyed that. But with Wil's Law podcast, I could do whatever I want. I mean, I remember I interviewed a judicial candidate. Fortunately, he didn't make it. I was hoping he would, but he's still up on there. If you want to listen to what he did and what the reasons behind becoming a judge or how to become a judge, you can go on that podcast and find that out. For people who have thought about that, hey, I think I would want to be a judge, just go on Will's Law podcast. I think it's episode number 5. And, he discusses his journey to becoming an attorney, why he became a judge, how to become a judge, the different ways to become a judge. And so I could do whatever topic I really want as long as it's providing value to the public. And I mean, I wouldn't have been able to. What would I do on a radio station, or what? I don't know. I guess the question is, you could tune into my podcast and look up the episode and find that which you want to learn about. You can't do that at a radio show. You got to be be available during that time. It's not like you could write into the radio show and say, or the network and say, hey, give me this season, or this episode. It doesn't work that way. But with having category and having the episodes downloadable like you would at Netflix,
it gives a library of content to be able to give out. So it's not like, oh, you missed that one night. Sorry, you missed everything.
Everything. Yeah,
you have more power to be able to get this out to more people, and for like it's evergreen content. So it's valuable information in a year, 2 years from now that people can still go back and be like, wow. Yeah. So that's how you become a judge, or that's how you do this, or that's how you do that. Man, that's I didn't even put that into perspective. I mean, I never had my own radio show, so I don't know the pros and cons of having a radio show. But I mean, I imagine just owning your own content. It's yours. It's not the radio, and you can give it out or share it in so many different ways. There's value in that.
There's value in that, yeah. And 1 week I interviewed a potential judge, a judicial candidate. The next week I interviewed a owner of a barbershop. These are 2 different subjects, 2 different people, 2 different upbringings. Yeah. But hey, there may be someone who wants to be a barber, or someone who's like, I want to take it to the next level. How did Valentin make it to where he's at now? And the barber culture is something different in and of itself.
Yeah, very much so.
It really is, so.
Wow, man, it's so cool to like kind of see your motivation behind launching this, and it's so much bigger than just as a lawyer.
Yeah, I don't define myself as a lawyer. A lot of people think like, oh, you're a lawyer and that's all you are. No, I'm not. It's just a small aspect of me if you really think about it. I'm more of a performer. If I could be, I'd be a comedian. I really would, because I think I'm pretty fucking funny.
I don't know if I'm laughing at you or laughing with you. No, I'm just kidding.
It works, doesn't it? Anyhow, even Diego's laughing. Look at it.
Oh, man. We'll make a micro clip out of that one. Man, it's crazy just to dig through your story, because I've known you for a while now. And I feel like I knew everything about you, and I learned more about you tonight or today. And I mean, I didn't know you had a radio show. I think I remember you saying something about it a long time ago.
Just because most of the time we have more than 2 vodka tonics, and that's why we end up losing concentration. We lose that depth.
We focus concentration on the future, not on the past. We're very future oriented. So with that, with talking on the future, where do you see your brand going? Because you're obviously, like you just said, you're more than just an entrepreneur or just more than an attorney. You can call yourself an entrepreneur, you can call yourself a performer, but you're so much more than that. And I think categorizing yourself and putting yourself in this box as an attorney limits you from, like you said, your passions, all the things that you do. You do so much. So what is it that, where is the next chapter for Wil?
Well, the next chapter is definitely in Dr. Divorce. I know it sounds funny. I even got teased a little bit by some people who are like, Dr. Divorce, what does that mean? That sounds silly, and I get some remarks off of it. But you got to learn that a lot of people are not going to support you, friends and family. People who you think are friends are going to kind of shoot down your dreams because it makes them uncomfortable. Yeah. And to what may seem like a joke to them, it's not to other people. And so I thought, well, Dr. Divorce was not even my idea. It was an idea of someone who said, you know what, you did the radio shows back then. How about if you turned it into a video, like an actual show with cameras and everything? When people dial in and you ask, or they ask and you answer legal questions, I think it'd be a great hit. And so in doing that, I decided, I'll start doing some small YouTube videos that are informative and provide advice, which I'll give you an example later on about that. But the future for me, I think, is going to be in Dr. Divorce. I want to start doing YouTube videos. I want to start my own show, whether it's going to be live. I still got to figure the logistics of that out. I don't know where all this is going, how the platforms are going to evolve. Because if you would have asked us about Instagram 5 years ago, it was just a picture platform. And now we're doing, and now you got stories and you have IGTV. I mean, you have a whole TV network out of this thing. So that's where it's going to be. My goal is to eventually have attorneys underneath me to where I'm doing the big cases, I'm doing the advertising, because this, it does add value and it brings back clients because people see that I know what I'm talking about, or at least I think I know what I'm talking about and I'm confident about it. And so it does bring back it brings the value to people, and that value is returned back to me. And I'll have other attorneys working on cases that I don't necessarily be there for, and to really focus on being the face of law, so to speak, in the Central Valley, hopefully California. I'm a California attorney, so I couldn't obviously be in New York practicing. I could do federal law potentially in New York City or other states, but that's where it is. I want to be, when someone thinks of, I need to go to divorce, I want people to remember like Wil Salgado first and be like, oh, you got Wil. If their spouse already got me, it's like, dang it, I wasn't fast enough.
I'm screwed. They got Wil.
They got Wil. So, and I think I'm slowly building that momentum because you really kind of know the attorney you are by the attorneys against whom you're appearing. And so when you start seeing yourself going up against high-level attorneys or attorneys that have been in the business for 5-10 years or have 10 years experience, more tenure than you, then at that point it's like, okay, people are actually trusting me to go up against these other pit bulls, and here we are litigating. So,
wow, going on what you said about kind of digging a little bit deeper. You went and how much do you think podcasting and creating content has helped you create like validation and credibility of your skill set?
Well, I just can't say something out of my butt and expect it to be true. There's going to be some validation to it. There's going to be some result or outcome of it. So, for example, if I'm talking about a certain outcome in a divorce proceeding or giving advice on a certain topic, for example, let's go off of child support, and I make a story or a YouTube video on it, the people are going to see that what I said was true when they go to court by themselves. For example, if I said ABC is going to happen and ABC happens, when at their hearing, they're going to say, well, crap, I remember that's what Attorney Salgado said. I want to go see him. And so I'll give you back to the perfect example that I was telling you about earlier. I put up one of my YouTube videos. There's only, I haven't checked last time, but there was one which is responding to a domestic violence restraining order. And in it, I discuss how you should keep your mouth shut if you have a criminal case that's running parallel to your restraining order case. So a lot of times when you are arrested for domestic violence or some sort of violent act, the alleged victim will also file their own restraining order ancillary to the criminal case. So now you have two cases. You have a restraining order case and you have the criminal case. The criminal case is prosecuted by the people of the state of California, which is what people know as the district attorney's office. And then your civil case or your family law case, depending on what the type of relationship you have with the victim, if you're the perpetrator, that is prosecuted by the alleged victim or the attorney who's representing the alleged victim. And so you have two cases. And when the family law case usually happens first or is resolved first before the criminal case, but the best thing to do is keep your mouth shut and have that follow the criminal case. And so that was my advice. I give a lot more detail about how to go about that in the video than I'm obviously telling you here. But I had a guy from Riverside, somewhere down south, called me. I thought they were from here. And it was funny. I had a consult with them. They asked, what they should do. And so I told them, okay, this is what I would do if I were you. And I always ask, where did you hear about me from? Or from who referred you to me? And they said, your YouTube videos. I said, wait a minute. So someone told you go to this attorney and then you found me on YouTube. And no, they Googled how to respond to a restraining order, and somehow I came up. Wow. So, and they said, well, we saw your video. Everything that you said in the video actually happened or was what was advised by the judge, because even the judge told them you should keep your mouth shut, right now, because you have a right to self-incrimination. And so we decided to call you. And so, so I said, well, if you decide to hire me, I'll fly down there and just pay my flight. But, I forgot what the question is. So,
creating credibility.
Yeah, creating credibility
with the platform. So, I mean, that's it right there. Like you said, you said something. It literally happened to him. It confirmed it, and then that brought you in clients. And on top of it, that's some evergreen content. That's content people are going to be looking up all the time. How to deal with divorce proceeding or restraining. I can't remember what the original video was. But that's content that people are going to continuously look up. And so when you're putting that content out there, it could be 2 years down the road, you could get another call like that too. Hey man, this happened to me again. And so it just shows the power of podcasting and creating content that it does not only just return business, but it brings credibility to you. And I'm sure, I know around town, people know you as Wil the attorney, and that you're successful and that you're giving all this value because you've created credibility by getting Ty Bogan. You've had Valentine, you've had Andy Zamora, and you've had all these different people on your podcast that just even creates more of a validation that you're not only successful, but you know what you're doing. And that just continues to build the Wil Salgado, Wil Law brand, and is going to allow other attorneys to want to come work for you because they're going to want to be on your podcast.
Right.
So much is coming through this thing that you just tried.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but so how much? I mean, you it seems like you've been in your whole life tried a lot of different things, and you're willing to experiment. And I think so often people are afraid to try something new. But like you said earlier, Instagram, the platforms are all changing constantly. But you're willing to try. How much has trying different things impacted your career?
Well, you could learn like anything in life. Life is full of lessons, and if you are continually trying, whether you fail at it or you're not, it's just a lesson. So I think what's Gary Vee, he's always talking about, don't be afraid of failure. So if I'm going to try, for example, to do like the Dr. Divorce podcast, and it's like, you know what, I don't like the vibe. I don't want to talk about this all the time. I don't think it's the right. I don't want to use the podcast platform to do my divorce. I'd rather do something else. At least I know I tried it. It's not something that I enjoyed. It's not something that I think would add value. But another attorney may be able to be successful at it. But to me, I didn't feel comfortable with it. It's not something that was really calling to me. Like I said, I feel more satisfied, a lot more joy, because that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's not really about the money. It's where do I find my contentment? Where do I find my sense of satisfaction of giving back to the community? And that's by doing the podcast and promoting other businesses. So you got to try different things, different systems, and that's what I'm talking about with respect to the platforms. But just as far as methods of practicing law and approaches to different cases. I mean, you try, obviously I can't discuss specific cases, but there's different ways to try and introduce evidence, for example. One way, try to be sneaky and try to try this way, and the judges will, they'll say, you can't do that, Mr. Salgado. You should know better. But you always got to be pushing the boundaries, so to speak. So when you say try, to me, it's like, okay, where's the boundary, and how far can I sort of push it? Because that's where you get the results, that's where you grow. That's where you see. Yes.
You've talked a lot about growth and uncomfortability. You got to get into an uncomfortable position, and until you test it, you're never gonna You're never gonna know. And I mean, the pain of regret is way worse than the pain of trying.
Right, exactly.
I'd much rather be like, well, I failed, than be like, man, what if I had started, and I didn't? You know what I mean? Like, what are the results of what happens to start? I mean, Dr. Divorce, you talked about friends or people you consider friends or family. What are you doing, Wil? Why are you doing that? For whatever, that's not going to work. But you tried, and then you got value. You gave this information out, you created value for the community, and then reciprocated. I think often when somebody tells you you're doing something crazy, and it's like somebody that's not in your field and they're like, what are you doing? Well, it's stupid. That's the moment you should double down and continue to do that because you're probably onto something. When nobody else sees it, you're onto something big.
Or even some attorneys, they're like, you're doing podcasts. Like, why? Like, what is that going? What value does that bring to you? How is that going to help you build your law practice? But like I say, it's uncharted territory. And look, I'm becoming my own sort of mini celebrity. Yeah. As an attorney in this area, just because I'm doing the podcast, because I'm doing these YouTube videos, because I'm putting out content, whether I'm on a yacht in Miami, which just occurred, or I'm in Las Vegas or New York City doing what I do. It shows that I enjoy life. I enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about my law practice, and I'm not just in it for myself. I'm not just doing this to have some sort of lavish lifestyle, which I don't. It may seem like it, but I am passionate. I love my life, and I love everything that I'm doing, and I'm always doing the things that I enjoy. If I don't like it, I'm not doing it. That's the way I operate.
Man, that's gonna be a perfect clip right there, Diego. We gotta make sure we cut that bad boy up and post that all over social media. But I mean, it really is it, man. Like, you gotta do what you love. Too many people are chasing the paycheck or what they think will become the paycheck instead of chasing what they're actually passionate about. And then they, when they look at somebody like you or myself and we're all excited and happy and they're like, why are you so happy? And it's like, well, because I love what I do. And like, you must be balling. It's not always about balling. It's about doing something that you feel fulfilled and you enjoy waking up every day and actually doing and providing value to the community.
Yeah, people sense the energy. Like your videos, I can see the energy and the excitement behind your new menu. It's incredible. You could feel it. Like, man, this guy's excited about his menu. I can't wait to see what he's gonna produce next. What is he pumping out next? Yeah. Because I feel your energy. Imagine if I'm sitting here like, yeah, we're gonna talk about a divorce tomorrow. It's just like blah blah. Like, no one wants to hear that. They want an attorney who's passionate, about what he does, and is going to be passionate in the courtroom. And I think that's where I've reached a level of success that I don't back down in court. Like I said, I try different things. Even in law, you have to approach things differently because not every case is the same. And so you have to be sort of innovative and try different approaches to the way you're going to handle a case. And I'm never comfortable, so to speak. And I think you and I discussed it in one of our dinner meets. And I said, if I'm waking up one morning and I'm like, at a comfortable place, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I always have to be chasing, okay, what am I doing next? What's the next way to grow? Because if you're at a place of comfortability, you're in a place of complacement. Yeah.
And no success is found there.
No, you just become.
I mean, and that's where I think, get back to the question I asked you about trying. I think that's what you've done is you're constantly trying, whether it be podcasting. You went from a park ranger to, well, let's see what this law thing, I think I'm passionate about this. I want to try that. Like, you've been willing to chase different things because you're like, that's what I'm going to be passionate. I want to try that. And you're dipping your toe in everything because the only way you know if you're going to love it is if you try it. And you're constantly putting yourself in a position to be uncomfortable. Yeah. And whether it be in business or supporting the community, you are on the forefront of everything. I mean, you're marching with the Black Lives Matter. You're involved in setting up protests, and you're involved in community and give backs. And like, dude, you're constantly doing different things. And I think you're in a constant state of uncomfortability. I mean, you might be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's where it's gotten for you is like, you only know one way, which is pushing the boundaries constantly in life, not I don't want to get in trouble by saying pushing the boundaries of the law, but pushing the boundaries of your potential. And that's why you continue to grow is because you're constantly pushing yourself. You've not reached that complacent level.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think I ever will. I think I'll always be trying different things, to be honest with you. I don't want to be an attorney forever. Mm-hmm. I think I do want to enter other business ventures. I definitely want to do the videos. But there'll be a point where I'll be like, I'm done doing videos. I want to do something else. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what I'd like to do next, but, I definitely don't want to die practicing law.
Yeah. But that's what's so exciting about you is you've not put yourself in this like, I am an attorney. That's who I am. Like, so many people identify with what they do. And if you eliminate what they do, they're like, who am I? Like you are your Will. Like that's who you are. Just today happens to be an attorney. Tomorrow it could be whatever.
The nursery.
Well,
we haven't even touched on the nursery.
That's why I kind of threw it up when you're like, I'm not going to always be an attorney. I'm like, well, you're kind of already not doing attorney. So tell us, and I'm going to screw it up, Bonilla?
Bonilla Nursery.
Bonilla, that's right.
Bonilla, and it's however you want to pronounce it. Different people pronounce it different ways, and I don't think there's a wrong way to say it, because you could say Bonilla, Bonilla.
And so that is how did you get involved in that?
Well, crap, it's
I know this is a whole
funny,
another subject.
The way that it works, because if we want to really take it back, when I was a teenager, I worked for the nursery as a field worker in my my high school days.
Oh, wow.
And I think I was a senior, maybe I'd already graduated, but I was very young at the time. And that's how I met my wife, my ex-wife, because she was the owner's daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so she would, stalk me a little bit. She's probably going to listen to this and be like, this mother. But, she would see me out there working and stuff, and we got to know each other better, and then we ended up falling in love. And when her father found out, he fired me. But it's funny, then true story, 15 years later, or what was it, 20-something years later, here I am helping her run it because she inherited it. She doesn't have the business knowledge. She did hair. That's all she did as an adult. And so to her, it's a new world. It's a man's world. For sure,
especially in the
agricultural world. And she doesn't have the legal background. She doesn't have the leadership abilities to really pull it together. And no offense to her, she's a wonderful person, but you're given this business that's done well historically, and now you've got to manage 100 and something acres of land. Wow. What do you effing do? And so I'm her most trusted ally. So she said, please help me out. I'm as green as she is in a sense, because I've been out of it for many years, but I've been able to get hire the employees that are necessary to keep the business operating, going out there and because it was, there's always a sense of confusion and disorganization when you have an owner pass away from a business, and so I've been able to had some cohesiveness to the business itself so that it runs smoother. And that really comes down to just checking on things, checking with the employees, see where they're at emotionally, because their longtime boss passed away. And there's some another uncomfortable situation for me, because there's some sort of that's a difficult spot for me too, to come into a place and say, hey, I'm going to start running the show, when I don't have the experience these guys have. I don't have the respect that they have for me as they did, obviously, for the original owner, because that was their owner for many, many years, and he knew what he was doing. He was the best in the field. Oh. And so for me to come in and as a newbie, as a lawyer, who they probably think, oh, you got this snobby young Hispanic attorney kid who's going to just come in and act like he knows. I don't, and that's the first thing. I'm relying on everybody's skill sets like a puzzle. This is your job, this is your job, and this is exactly how I say it. I'm relying on you to provide these results. Can you do it? Yes or no? Can you do it? Yeah. Do you have enough confidence? And sometimes later on, they'll be like, well, I don't know if this is the right way to be. But it's like when we had this meeting, you said this is what you would deliver. Are you going to deliver or not?
Yeah, holding them accountable.
Yeah, holding them accountable.
I mean, what I hear is you're a great leader.
Well, I try to be.
I think if anything, not to knock you as not saying you're not a great attorney or you're not a great farmer, but what really makes you great is you're a great leader. You talked about delegating. You talked about holding people accountable, communicating, creating that line of communication, having team meetings, understanding their maybe mental state going into this. Like this young attorney guy, what does he know? Like, I think recognizing being aware of what your team is thinking is a great thing for a leader. Right. I think so many leaders are not aware to what their team is thinking, and they're like, why doesn't this guy freaking listen to me, man? I told him what to do. And then you're like, well, but have you thought about where he's at? And you put yourself in that shoe. And so that's what allows you to adapt to different things and be so good at them so quickly. Because you've only been with the nursery for 6 months, if that.
Yeah.
And from what I see, you're there all the time. You've been rebranding. You're constantly promoting it. Like, you've gone 110% into it while still running a law firm, while still putting out podcasts and content, and also during a pandemic. Like, you've been balls to the wall. But that's what shows you're a great leader. And leadership is everything rises and falls on leadership. And I think so many people have a hard time transitioning careers or industries because they don't have the basic fundamentals of being a great leader. And that's what you choose. Through diving through your whole journey, I mean, you can see that whether it be leading yourself or leading a team, you've really stepped up in that area.
Well, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just, it comes about naturally. Even doing the stuff that I love doing on my spare time, like enjoying classic cars and stuff. I mean, I'm the president of a car club. Like,
it's like running the car club leadership.
It's just, and it becomes overwhelming because it's, we do a car show, a lot of it. A lot of the runs, like the one we just did last weekend, I did the market. I had someone, thankfully, who did a logo for us, not the logo, but the flyer. I pumped that out in social media and advertised it. And I spoke with my road captain of the club and helped him get other guys involved in the club. And it's just, it takes time. I got a guy who I saw has potential, who I saw has a large media following, and he has a taco truck, and he has a beautiful truck. And so I approached him and, do you want to be part of the club? And he's a great asset. He sold tacos at our event and brought a DJ. He knew a DJ, so we got that squared away. So I see, okay, one of the things about being a leader is I see the potential that people provide, and so I put them in the position to excel and really create the vision that I have for whether it be a car club, a nursery, a law firm. So I don't know. I guess it's a gift. I don't know.
But it's something you've been developing, whether you know it or not. I mean, maybe we're just unpacking it now, and you're like, oh wow, it's kind of hitting me. But there's so much of your journey that's led you to this point that allows you to be successful. I think so many people want to get into something and be like, well, I don't know about this industry, but it's the habit, the skills that you develop in your journey that will allow you to accelerate in any industry.
It's a slow process for sure. Yeah, and it takes time. And it takes time, discipline. I think you've been saying this a lot too in your consistency. Yeah. You discussed that yesterday in one of your stories about being consistent.
Yeah. And how much has consistency impacted you are a model of discipline. Other than when you're on vacation, you are like even when you're on vacation, you're still I was not talking shit. But and when you're on vacation, you're fully enjoying that.
I've relaxed a little bit because I've been able to. Yeah.
And you understand the importance of that. We'll get into that in a second. But how much is consistency in your daily actions? How much has that impacted your career?
Oh, geez. It's, my foundation is consistency. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I wasn't consistent and disciplined. You just can't. You can't become an attorney without consistency because you have to consistently, have a schedule to read your books on a certain amount of time. Just studying for the bar exam, for example, I was consistent. I had my schedule. I would wake up 6 a.m, go to Starbucks immediately, pump out 4 hours of material there, eat, my cup noodle soup, maybe take a nap, do some work because I was doing freelance work at the time, do my freelance work in the afternoon, then go back to Starbucks for another 3 hours in the evening. And that's how it was. Boom, 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 just being consistent. Same thing with being at the law office. You're consistent and also being a leader. You don't want to tell your staff, hey, we're going to do this, and then later on say we're going to do something different. My systems, and you talked about this too, systems and processes. You got to have a consistent system as to the way that your law office is going to manage. And so that definitely plays into the building of my career where I'm at now, because if you're not consistent in what you do, your life is going to be in disarray.
Absolutely.
And people are, you're not going to have a successful business if you're not consistent. Create consistent systems, processes within your business, within you as a person doing habits, whether it be working out, even vacationing. I'm consistent in my vacations. If you notice, I go on vacation, it seems like every other 4 months, and that's because, we're probably going to dive into this, having a work-life balance.
Yeah. So, that's literally what I was going to, I want to end on this because I think this is something, and we've talked about this a couple times, and something that I struggle with. So I want to get some insight from this because I burn out so often. How much has vacationing and actively taking time to enjoy life, how much does that impact you as an individual, like high achiever, but also in your business?
It's, I think do my clients enjoy me being on vacation as much? Probably not. Are there cases being handled still? Yes, they are. Okay, they still are being handled. It's about quality of life. If you hire someone, or whether you're creating product or content or food, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, if you're slowly burning yourself out, I think that you're producing at lower vibrations. And so I'm big on law of attraction and all that stuff, and that's a whole different subject we're not going to discuss now. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to be well-rounded And you really have to remember that there's more to life than just being passionate about a certain hobby. You have to be able to feed your mind, feed your body, feed your soul. Yeah. And so I'm a big Christian believer. And so, I feed myself spiritually by reading the Bible or doing devotionals. That's how I feed that part. My body, I exercise. I try to eat healthy, but with my schedule, it's difficult. And I know that may be an excuse.
I was like, come and go fresh.
I do. And you know that. No,
I do.
And so I'm realistic. Yeah. I'm not going to be the guy that says, like, tomorrow I'm going to start a diet. I'm going to stick to it. I know it's not. I'm going to stick to it. I'm not that disciplined enough to be able to do it. So I try to eat healthy as much as I can, and I work out as much as I can, and I like the results, And so the other part of this is just my overall quality of life, going on vacation and experiencing new things. Again, going back to trying things. And when I go on vacations, I'm not just going out to party and and get intoxicated or go to a nightclub and dance. I like to travel and enjoy different cultures. I went to London and Edinburgh in Scotland. I've backpacked Spain. I've been to Cuba not too long ago, and that was an interesting adventure. I like to put myself in these trips I took by myself. Wow. These were trips I took by myself because I'm the type of guy that I like to be dropped in the middle of somewhere and be like, figure it out. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. Get uncomfortable. Yeah, get uncomfortable. I was staying in hostels and stuff where you are forced to meet new people and become friends with new people. I'm the type of guy you could drop me off at a bar by myself and I'll come out with a bunch of friends.
This is true.
It's true.
I think I've done this.
And
not intentionally left you at the bar.
But so it's about exploring to me. Okay, it's about exploring and getting out there and expanding my mindset from I'm not Will, the lawyer, the president of a car club, etc. from Modesto, California. I'm much bigger than that. I want to experience the world, and then that gives me a world view, I guess, so to speak. Wow. I don't know, and I definitely do want to see more of the States. I've been doing a lot of out of country travel, but I'm realizing, man, we have so many beautiful cities that I haven't even touched on.
Like the Midwest. I mean, there's a lot of areas of our country that, I mean, unless it's the East Coast or West Coast, we don't really travel in between. There's a lot going on in Texas. I mean, obviously, we were just in Florida recently. Yeah. I go up and visit my sister in Maryland and into that area. I mean, there's so much history and so much things that, we have yet to see in the United States.
It's not more about vacation. It's more about exploring. Mm-hmm. If we want to switch what I do, I'm exploring. Yeah. I'm exploring. I mean, I do go to Vegas here and there often, but that's more of like a fun time. But overall, I'd rather go and explore and learn about different cultures, different cities, different backgrounds, different history. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to go to the South, New Orleans, and learn about different subjects.
I would love to go down in that. There's a lot of history there.
I love history. I love the two subjects that I love the most are the World War II and Civil War.
Really?
Civil War, yeah.
Wow. What are about those that you enjoy so much?
'Cause we actually fought for something that was clearly. Yeah. There was a clear purpose behind it, the Civil War to end slavery. Yeah. That was the main goal. And then World War II, obviously, to end the spread of the Nazis.
Hate,
yeah.
More and more hate. And look at how
here we are now.
Look at how they combined.
I know. So here we are now, and then next thing you know, you see pictures of me as a revolutionary on. I
wouldn't doubt it, man.
I never thought I'd be in a protest like this, but here I am. I always would look back at the Martin Luther King videos and say, wow, like that must have been an interesting time. What would I have done had I been in that situation? Mm-hmm. And so it seems like we're kind of living it now, especially with everything that's going on. It seems things are getting a little worse than they are better.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's that is definitely the reality. I mean, that's what it looks like on the reality. And sometimes we have to get worse to get better. And hopefully we're just, I think, not to get political, but or I don't know, societal, whatever you want to call it. It's people getting uncomfortable, and I think our country has gotten uncomfortable. As a white male, I know that much of my fellow, whatever you want to call it, white people, don't like being uncomfortable. And every time somebody puts us in an uncomfortable position, we're like, shut up. And this is the first time it's at the forefront that society is like, oh shit, we got to deal with this.
Yeah, I think this generation has not dealt with it. Yep. Maybe the older generation has. I had an interesting talk the other day with a guy, a white fella, not to be, saying white or brown or black. But, he was talking about, the police shoot more white people than they do Hispanics or Mexicans. And I said, well, that's your problem. You should be complaining too. You should be protesting. Yep. Like, that's your problem. That's the problem. You guys aren't what's the word I'm looking for? Aware? Yeah.
It's a very funny time with so many people being so close-minded and this is getting back to like you're being a great leader. And I think this is, if we want to be great country, we must all be our own leaders of our own family, ourselves, and we must be willing to step back and look at somebody else's point of view and understand, get into their shoes. Well, okay, I get it that I don't agree with that, or I don't feel that way, or whatever. Whatever. I don't see it that way. But let me oh wow, I could see how you see it that way, and it's so funny. We want people to be open-minded or change their ways, but we're not yet willing to change our ways, right, or willing to be open-minded. And I see a lot of people on no matter what side, they're like, you should be more open-minded. I was like, well, are you willing to listen to me, or are you just going to tell me I'm wrong? And I think social media, unfortunately, shows us the two divides. But realistically, I mean, we were in that Modesto march. There was everybody there.
Right.
I mean, I'm white. You're Mexican. You're Mexican. I don't know if I want to categorize
Salvadorian.
Hispanic. Hispanic. Sorry, I apologize.
No, it's all right.
But, we had that. We had whites. We had Italians. We had Armenian. We had so many different people all out there walking. But then you go on social media and it looks like, one side versus the other. And I think so much social media does kind of spread it out and make it seem worse than what it really is. Like, we're not really left versus right there. Most of the country is probably somewhere in the middle,
right,
like most people. But unfortunately, social media has kind of magnified the far extremists.
Right.
And I think it's important that we get uncomfortable and we have these conversations. And I think I've had more powerful conversations with friends like you and different people about change and about my own personal realization, other people's realizations. Like, I never thought about like even this point of view or that point of view. And I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to other people's opinions. And I think there's going to be power that comes from this. And getting back to kind of what you said, where would you be during MLK or these different movements? And I think that's powerful to look at for ourselves and go, well, where am I now?
Right.
Am I going to remember when I talk to my kids or my grandkids and be like, when this happened, when the George Floyd murder happened, I was here. And there's power in being able to know that you're on the right side of history, and be willing to be outspoken. I know D. Murphy posted that when he's like, when my kids look back at this time, they're going to be like, damn, my dad was crazy, but he was on the right side. Like,
right.
He stood for something instead of, being quiet and just being a puppet,
Right.
And I think, I think we're going through a very interesting time. And I think we're on the other side of this, people like you and I having our voice and speaking this truth and being, two different races of people coming together and going, yes, we agree. We need change. We need to communicate. We need to put ourselves in other people's perspective or, other people's shoes. I think there's going to be freedom in that, and we're going to unite as a country. I mean, it's put on a pedestal right now, and we have to address this. And I think change is coming. Change is already happening, and it's going to take some time. But I think these types of conversations and awareness is what our country needs.
Yeah, I agree.
So
absolutely.
Well, man, dude, we've gone quite a bit into this. I appreciate you, dude. I do want to come back on. I want to talk about the law of attraction. I want to talk about work-life balance because, I think one thing I took from this is I've always said that life is like a wheel, and the wheel doesn't roll smooth when you only have one spoke in the wheel. I mean, it's you really have so many different spokes of, your spirituality, your community, your fam. I mean, you're always posting your kids, and you and your ex-wife have a great relationship. You have this, your mom's. It's your mom, right? That you went out to dinner with when Corona was still closed, and you were out at a restaurant.
Yeah.
You do this. You have family. You have your health. You have your business. You have all the spokes of life, and that really speaks to the balance that you have in life. And I'd love to dive more into that. And like I said, my goal with this podcast is much like the Joe Rogan podcast where he has his friends come back on. I want to have people like you that are close friends of mine come back on and dig deeper into your mindset. I know today was kind of an introduction to Wil and what Wil's doing, but like to get back into like what makes Wil tick and makes you that high achiever and it makes you that person that can achieve in so many different areas of life. And so I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this value. But before we end, Where can everybody find you and get more information about what you're doing as well as your law firm?
You could just you could find me on Instagram. That's where I'm more active, or mostly active. Wil Salgado ESQ, and that's Wil with one L. And or Facebook Wil Salgado. There's wilslaw.net, which is my website where you have all the podcast. That's basically where you could find me. If you want to email me, it's Wilbur at salgadolawoffice.com. WILBER at salgadolawoffice.com, and my last name is spelled SALGADO. And that's where you get a hold of me.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and giving everybody value. Guys, make sure, if you like this podcast, make sure you screenshot and share it with everybody. Post it up on your Instagram. Let us know how you liked it. Let us know what you thought about it. Shoot Wil a DM. Shoot me a DM. Let us know what you got from this podcast. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys back here for our next episode, episode number 11. We're going to have another special guest. We'll see you guys next week.